play the game of speed, first, set up the game. To do this, first get a standard deck of playing cards. Remove any jokers or extra cards from the deck. The game is played with just a 52-card deck. The game can also be rough on cards, so it is best to use a deck you don't mind potentially getting bent. Next, one player will be the dealer. The dealer will deal cards as follows. In the middle of the playing area, between both players, they will place 5 cards face down. Then 1 card face down next to it, 1 more card face down next to that, and 5 more cards face down. These cards in the middle will be the cards used by both players in the game. After placing the middle cards, the dealer will deal each player their individual player cards. To do this, they will deal each player a pile of 15 cards. These 15 cards are known as their stockpile. Neither player will look at these cards. They will simply keep them in their player area. Finally, each player will be dealt 5 more cards. These cards will be each player's hand cards. Each player should look at these cards and arrange them in any way they choose. The game requires players to create runs of cards, so players may wish to put their cards in numerical order. If the cards were dealt correctly, all of the deck cards will be placed in piles. After setting up the game, players are ready to begin playing. The game of speed is a fast-paced, 2-player card game. The object of the game is to be the first player to run out of all of the cards in your stockpile and then all of the cards in your hand. To start the game, both players will, at the same time, flip over the single card in the middle of the playing area. Each player will flip up the card on their right. After flipping up their card, both players are free to play on either one of the flipped up cards. To play on a card, the player must play a card on top of it that is either 1 higher or 1 lower than the current card. The suit of the card they play does not matter. For example, this card could have either a 4 or a 6 placed on it. And now this card can have either a 5 or a 7 placed on it. As mentioned, the suit of the cards does not matter, only the value of the card played. It should be noted that the ace counts both high and low, so the ace can have either a king or a 2 played on it. And now this 2 can have either an ace or a 3 played on it. A card can always have a card of the value higher or lower played on top of it. If both players try to play a card on top of the same card, the player who played their card first will win the placement. The other player will have to take their card back into their hand. After a player plays a card from their hand, they will draw a new card from the top of their stockpile and add it to their hand. They may only ever have a max of 5 cards in their hand. It should be noted that a player is able to play several cards from their hand before drawing. So if this player had a 4, they could play it on top of the 5 card in the middle. Instead of immediately drawing, this player should also play their 3 onto the 4. Now they can draw 2 cards to get their hand back up to 5 cards. A player can play as many cards onto the pile as they are able to, but they have to play each card in a separate action. To recap, after the first 2 cards have been flipped up, both players will race to play any cards from their hand. They will not take turns playing. They will play cards from their hand when they are able to, and draw cards from the stockpile to replace their hand cards. A round of speed ends after both players have played all of the cards they are able to from their hand. Both players will then make sure they have 5 cards in their hand. When both players are ready to start the next round, they will, at the same time, flip over the next card from the pile of cards in the middle. Each player will flip a card from the pile to their right. And players will continue playing cards from their hand. The game of speed ends after one player in the game runs out of all of the cards in their stockpile, and all of the cards in their hand. The first player to do this is the winner. If there are no cards remaining in the middle of the stockpiles, and both players still have hand cards remaining, players will shuffle the discard piles in the middle and create 2 new stockpiles, so they can continue playing until a winner is established.